They were told, the American people, we were told, we the people, were told that the Federal Reserve was going to be a trust buster. They were going to hold Wall Street and the banks accountable. Instead of just letting these moneyed interests run roughshod, we're actually going to have some accountability with Wall Street and the big bankers. And so, was the Fed built to bust the big banking trust, or was it written by the big banking trust themselves? And does that really matter? Does it matter if a legislative bill that creates a central bank for the United States of America, monopolizing credit, controlling the money supply, is written by good, honest Bernie Sanders, AOC kind of folks, or just a bunch of greedy, seedy, wealthy, capitalist bankers? I mean, does it even matter? Of course it does. I'm going to read a passage here from Mindful Economics. This is Joel Magnuson. It was written in 2008. So this is when the first Great Recession, the first crash was happening. It's page 24 if you want to follow along. Over the last 30 years or so, this has changed. The U.S. is finding it increasingly difficult to export goods to offshore markets, yet its imports continue to soar. The result is growing trade deficits and mounting debt. The U.S. has become financially dependent on foreign creditors to keep its domestic economy from experiencing a crisis, and this dependency relationship cannot be sustained over the long run. So that's not good. Now, some people are afraid of conspiratorial, shadowy city groups. Who's actually controlling America, right? Who is controlling America? Is it the Illuminati? Is it the Trilateral Commission, the United Nations? This whole thing's just about the United Nations, isn't it? To force feed us vaccines to make us all sterile? Isn't that what this whole thing is about? You got the Freemasons, you got Skulls and Bones, you got the Bilderberg Group, which is, a bunch of rich assholes getting together. So they're probably talking about, maintaining their self-interest. But we Americans have a secret, shadowy, conspiratorial cabal of credit right in front of us. And it's plain as day, they're hiding out in the open. It's the Fed, the Federal Reserve System. And it's made up of 125 individuals. You got 12 presidents, 108 board of directors, and 5 federal board governors. None of them are democratically elected. Nor does the media hold any of them accountable for any of their choices and decisions. Most Americans and media don't know jack shit about how the Fed and our financial system works. So we got a secret, shadowy, conspiratorial cabal right in front of us. It's called the Federal Reserve. Now, this is just stuff that I've, read and found interesting. So my method is you read everything that you can, and then in order to, find out the truth, you got to start, you got to experiment, right? You got to go up to the Federal Reserve Bank in Kansas City and be like, hey, can I open an account? I'm an American citizen. This is an American central bank. Am I allowed to open an account here? Oh, no. Okay. Abraham Lincoln. So basically you read all the literature, you read all the material that you can. So there's either the official version, and then there's the, most believable alternative versions. And then you got to synthesize, or one's right and one's wrong. You got to, rectify those contradictions. Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Jackson, JFK, they tried to print up U.S. money without charging the taxpayers' interest. JFK did sign into law right before he got assassinated some silver certificates, which were apparently interest and debt-free. Debt and interest-free U.S. notes, silver certificates. So this was giving power to the Treasury. Did the Fed do JFK in because he was printing up silver certificates, which look like, U.S. dollars, only with a silver tint, and they were backed by silver. So Andrew Jackson is notorious for hating the banks. We got a president right now that loves the central bank, but he acts like Andrew Jackson is one of his favorite presidents ever. He could learn from Andrew Jackson when it comes to the centralized banking system. And Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was also like, to finance the Civil War, all these bankers wanted to make a shit ton of money off of them, but he was like, fuck you guys, and just started printing up the U.S. greenback. And it turned into the Continental, actually. The greenback became worthless, just like the Continental before that. So in some respects, the Federal Reserve notes have held up for 100 years. And whereas the Continental and the U.S. demand notes of Abraham Lincoln, okay, so 1879, SCOTUS said that the U.S. government can issue U.S. notes, debt, and interest free on top of the $23 trillion national debt. The U.S. government also runs a $1 trillion deficit. In order to cover that deficit, the Fed prints up money through the U.S. Treasury, buys the deficit debt, therefore, bringing the deficit, bringing the debt down, and the dollars are circulated into the economy through the dirty dozen, the 12 Federal Reserve regional banks. In 1992, the Fed made $286 billion on interest on debt, compliments of the U.S. taxpayer, and a percentage of our income tax goes to pay for that interest payment to the Fed for printing up our money and using our money, and they want to profit off of the American taxpayer. Because we give our money free of charge, interest and debt free. We give that, to them, the American people. We give our money, debt and interest free to the banks and to the Fed, when they print it up with the U.S. Treasury. But do they return the favor? No, they do not. In fact, Max Kaiser calls Federal Reserve note fiat debt note. It's all debt. Whether you're borrowing debt or you got a dollar bill, that dollar bill represents debt. So the Fed officials owns millions of dollars worth of stocks, and they make decisions which influence those stock prices. Jerome Powell's worth $55 million. You think Jerome Powell gives a flying fuck about the poor or homeless in America or the working class? He cares about the millionaires. So the leader of the Federal Reserve System cares about the millionaire class. He's a Catholic Republican too, so he's, all the groups that he's going to fight for the groups that he's in. So he's a millionaire. He's a stock owner. And, he's the president of the Fed. So the creative accounting can balloon $500 billion to $4.5 trillion somehow. Oh, you gave us $500 billion. Thank you, Congress. Thank you, America. That's fiscal policy versus monetary policy. Thank you. Thanks for the $500 billion. And now I got $4.5 trillion. How the fuck did you do that? How did you do that? The Fed is a credit monopoly. The Fed has usurped the government of the United States. Thomas Massey says, look who controls us. Look who got all the money in the stimulus. So we get $1,200, but 10,000 of our dollars went to the Fed. Why didn't that 10,000 bucks go to us? So they control everything here, controls our foreign relations. It makes and breaks governments at will. The Fed is a credit monopoly. There's so much money in buying people's debt. Apparently, though, if you could keep on buying people's debt and nothing but debt who defaulted, then all you really own is their debt. They're buying junk bonds. The U.S. government's buying anything and everything right now. The Fed controls interest rates and the total amount of money in the economy. So that's the monetary policy. The Fed, they have a whole bunch of, shit that they say that they're for. Check clearing, make sure checks are official and good. There's stabilizing, prices and shit. But I think basically stopping depressions. That's the point of a Federal Reserve, is to stop depression, stop bank runs. So to make sure a Great Depression never fucking happens. That's their main job. In 1959, new legislation allowed the Fed to transfer bonds to commercial banks at no cost to the bank. The Fed got less profit for that and interest income to give to the U.S. Treasury. So Charles Lindbergh, a congressman, said that the Fed with the establishment of the Fed, that establishes the largest, most gigantic trust on earth. When President Woodrow Wilson signs this bill, this invisible government of the monetary power, will be legalized, the worst legislative crime of the ages perpetuated by this banking and currency bill. When President Woodrow signs this bill, hey, will you stop? I'm trying to do this. No, stop. Charles Lindbergh is a congressman. He said that the Federal Reserve, this establishes the largest, most gigantic trust on earth. And he says that when President Woodrow Wilson signs this bill, the invisible government of the monetary power will be legalized. The worst legislative crime of the ages perpetuated by this banking and currency bill. The invisible government of the monetary policy. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. Thomas Jefferson, already they have raised up a money aristocracy that has set the government at defiance. The issuing power of money should be taken from the banks and restored to the people who it properly belongs. Thomas Jefferson. So the issuing power of money needs to go to the American people. Fuck the representatives, fuck the Fed. They're all bought and paid by, big-ass millionaires and shit. So the American people don't have any representation. This is taxation without representation. So the issuing power of money should be taken from the banks, restored to the people who it properly belongs. It's Thomas Jefferson. Ben Franklin said, to get away from the Bank of England, that was one of the main primary motivations to the American Revolutionary War. Thomas Jefferson, if the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children will wake up homeless on the continent that their fathers conquered. Robert H. Hemphill, credit manager, Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, he said, we are completely dependent on the commercial banks. Someone has to borrow every single dollar that we got in circulation, whether it's credit or cash. It's all debt. If the banks create ample synthetic money, we are prosperous. If not, we starve. We are absolutely without a permanent monetary system, a permanent money system. Napoleon, he, was financed by banks, but he also didn't like them. When the government is dependent upon bankers for money, they, and not the leaders of the government, control the situation, since the hand that gives is above the hand that takes. Right? The hand that gives is the hand that takes. So, since the U.S. government is dependent on the Fed, and the Fed is dependent on all these foreign banks, then therefore the foreign banks are the ones that's in control of our government. They're the hand that gives, so they're also the hand that takes. We only got, $1,000, but the foreign banks, how much of that $10,000 went to foreign banks? Money has no motherland. Financiers are without patriotism, without decency. Their sole object is gain. I'll say it again because this is the, global, money managers, the global stockholders and money markets and currency traders and shit. So the money changers, right? The same motherfuckers that Jesus said, get the fuck out of church. Yeah, pay, give the Caesars what is his. Yeah, like the Roman government didn't fucking change that shit. But then, the money changers in the temple. Get out of here, you money changing sons of bitches. This is the house of God. No fucking money changers are going to be in a Christian house of God. That's Jesus the motherfucking Christ. Why? Because money change, they have no patriotism, and they don't have any decency, so they're not going to be loyal to America, and they're not going to be loyal to anybody but themselves and their stockholders or their other rich buddies and shit. Insider trading. Why do you think the senators are dropping their stocks? Senators are dropping their stocks because they had information nobody else had. There's a bank that once attempted to repossess the property by default to face Judge Mahoney in a jury trial. Jerome Daly, however, was found innocent. The bank could not foreclose on the property because he created the loan money from thin air, as most banks do. Oh, you gave me loan money? Where did that loan money come from? Oh, shit. A California 9th Circuit Court decision declared that federal banks are private, not government. They're bought and paid for by the government. They're the centralized government bank. Everything about them's the fucking government. They're not democratically elected, so they're going to hide behind the private sort of label And that should tell you right there, you know, if they're going to hide behind a private label, they're basically like, this is our money. It's not your money. The Fed is for us. It's for us, not for you. It's for the 125 Fed, you know, officials and their friends and shit. It's not for the 350 million Americans. In the field of money and credit, the Fed is more powerful than Congress, and the president, says Mariner Eclels, by devaluing the U.S. dollar with quantitative easing, QE, the U.S. government and the Fed are stealing the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar, stealing the store of value for that dollar. They're devaluing our dollar. QE devalues our dollar. John Adams wrote to TJ, a good monetary system is Milton Friedman's. He's a monetarist. As Milton Friedman says, a slow trickle. Just, you know, replace the old, worn-out money, and then there's some money is going to be irretrievably lost, damaged, thrown away, you know, blows down the fucking thing, gets on fire, whatever. Somehow, you got to, you know, the money supply is paper, so it's not all, you got to replace any of the money that's destroyed or damaged, and you got to increase, commiserate with the economic growth. So with the wages and the prices, population growth, all that goes together. So you have to have enough money, enough dollars to, you know, trade. So if the economy gets bigger, you're going to need more money because the economy is bigger, but you can't just print fucking money up because people want money. If you print money up just because people want money, that means people, you know, just like the goddamn stray animals. They say that about food stamps, right? If you keep feeding a stray animal, they're going to keep coming back. What the fuck you think the president and Congress and the Federal Reserve are doing to the American people right now? They keep, you know, with their hat in hand, going up to the U.S. Treasury saying, please, sir, can I have some more? And the U.S. Treasury's like, oh, you want some money? Well, sure, here you go. How many trillions? What, 4.5 trillion? Yeah, we got $4.5 trillion here. John Adams wrote to TJ, all the perplexities, confusions, and distresses in America arise not from defects in the Constitution or the Confederation, not from want of honor or virtue, as much as from downright ignorance of the nature of coin, credit, and circulation. Coin, credit, and circulation. The damn American people just don't know shit, says John Adams to Thomas Jefferson. Shit ain't changed much, has it? History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. President James Arthur Garfield, whoever controls the money in any country is absolute master of industry, legislation, and commerce. President James Arthur Garfield says that. Whoever controls the money in any country is absolute master of industry, legislation, and commerce. What did James Arthur Garfield do for the American people? I guess he was controlled by the moneyed interest, who controlled legislation, commerce, and industry. If the American people only understood the rank injustice of our money and banking system, there would be a revolution before morning. Andrew Jackson. So the Fed is a cabal of credit. I think that's to understand the credit, you know, to understand the Federal Reserve at the very least, you should understand that they are monopolizing credit when people, you know, go to borrow and take money in the stocks and the derivatives, credit swaps and the commercial paper factories and the repurchase agreement factories and what other, you know, creative financial accountant bullshit they want to come up with to create, you know, more money to expand the money supply. This is, you know, this is all relevant to understand because they are a monopoly of credit. The U.S. dollar is a Federal Reserve note, so it's a bank note. I would prefer to have actual money and for that money to be mine. If we're going to have a central bank, then that, you know, I have an account at the Federal Reserve and I have, you know, decision-making powers about how the Federal Reserve operates. I want democratic control. They act like, oh, because they're separate, you know, away from control of the U.S. government and the American people, that makes, you know, sure that they make independent decisions that only benefit, you know, the economy. What's best for the American economy? That's such fucking bullshit. That's such horse shit. When does that, you know, we'll just let that person over there make all the decisions without holding them accountable whatsoever in hopes that their decisions, it's kind of Supreme Court in a way too, right? Supreme Court, are their decisions actually helpful to America? When Andrew Jackson did the Trail of Tears, Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional. You can't do that. Andrew Jackson says Okay, you made your decision, so enforce it. They didn't enforce it. The Trail of Tears happened, so how much power does the Supreme Court, actually have? So it's easier just to make decisions and hide behind power, and then, instead of making a decision where it might need to be enforced. So, yeah, we got secret cabal right in front of us. The Federal Reserve is a secret cabal right in front of us, and it's a monopoly of credit. The monetary power, it's a big monetary financial system. I'll end it off on this. There's two economies. There's two economies in America, and one economy is the real economy, and the real economy is the goods and services being exchanged for money. So you go out, buy a pizza, go to theater, whatever, go, buy some milk. That is the real economy, the actual exchange of goods and services in the economy. The financial economy, however, is not the real economy. The financial economy is only played with by the wealthy and powerful folks that can understand, a little bit about what's going on, and they can profit from it. So if you're going to be on one side or the other, the financial industry always makes money. They always win. It's the goods and services, the regular people, the masses that engage in the real economy that get fucked. But somehow the financial economy, they always win. It's rigged in their favor anyways, and now they just got trillions of fucking dollars in liquidity. So they got lots of fucking money to play with. They might borrow, they might buy new companies, they might just store all of it in their vaults. Yeah, but I don't think it's going to stimulate. It's not going to help the American worker. One-time stimulus check, we need a, fucking 20 times stimulus check. So, for the workers, and none to the financial industry. They got enough, right? They got fucking trillions. You need more than just fucking trillions? Fuck you. You got your fucking trillions. How the fuck can you sit there and tell us you need some more? The $4.5 trillion, talk about a crackhead. You give a fucking crackhead, fucking $20 spending in crack, and you're like, what the fuck? You're hungry and shit. But you give the goddamn Federal Reserve $4.5 trillion, and then within a week, they're like, yeah, our investments with that $4.5 trillion, America, didn't work out. Okay, we got to buy more corporate debts and more junk bonds and more treasuries, more mortgage backs. We got to buy more debt, buy the student loan debt. None of the shit that'll help people. So not the student loan debt. Now, when I got debt's a student loan debt. We'll buy corporate debt, bank debt, mortgage-backed securities, and then, foreclose on people, kick them out of their goddamn homes. That'll help the banks, right, shore up their assets and their value. So the Federal Reserve has a monopoly on credit. They have a monopoly on credit. And that's good or bad, I don't know. You get people indebted to you, then you own them forever. And so that's a very bad system if the American people are not ready or prepared or educated to fight against something like that. They're going to continue to fucking lose their asses every single goddamn time. So the American people need to understand their economic system. That's for goddamn sure. It'd be better for all of us because they can make better decisions. A variable interest rate? I don't have a job, and you're giving me this mortgage with a variable interest rate? I'll take it. And then you get to live in a house for 3 years, but you're going to get kicked out. And so that's the banks covering their own fucking asses, make sure their stockholders are getting paid dividends. Like I said, it's a secret, shadowy cabal. And it's kind of out, it's out in the open. So the Federal Reserve Bank chairs there, I don't know, the meetings aren't public. The minutes and shit are published like a month later with the Fed, the top dog. So the Kansas City Fed. It'd be interesting, actually. I think maybe I should call the Kansas City Fed and just see, hey, I'm a citizen of, the region of the Kansas City Fed. What, as an American citizen, what benefits do I get with a Federal Reserve Bank trying to say that this right here is your jurisdiction, huh? Why should I allow you to have that? You want to say you got authority? It's the onus is on you. You say you got power, then you need to tell me exactly why you got that power. And you have to justify it. The onus is on you to justify your fucking claim of authority. Kansas City Fed. Why do you claim you have the authority of jurisdiction over me? Anyways, John Masters, 814. It's April 13th, 2020. It's Monday. So you know what that means. April 13th, 2020. Never forget. Peace.